Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 67. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction coach and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps. So be sure to stop by HipTalk.com and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course. And for our listeners who found us through Power of Your Mind podcast, you can get 35% off your first order of hypnosis downloads when you apply the code podcast to your shopping cart. Also, be sure to download our latest HypnoCloud app in the iTunes store. So today I have a very special guest with me, Niraj Naik. Niraj Naik, MPharm, is a certified pharmacist turned holistic health and breathwork expert, having cured himself from ulcerative colitis in 2010. He is dedicated to helping others to restore their health and improve their overall quality of life with holistic practices and lifestyle changes where stress and gut health is a contributing factor. A professional musician, Niraj has produced music for Wim Hof and Marisa, and his therapeutic music is also used in wellness centers and spas internationally. Niraj is also the founder of SOMA Breath, the global breathwork movement, taking the world by storm. He is a Mindvalley author, creator of the world's most viral infographic, a serial entrepreneur, and one of the world's most sought-after spiritual ceremony facilitators. And today, Niraj is going to share some of his insights about breathwork to harness the power of your mind. So welcome to the show, Niraj.
It's a great honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you on the show. I've actually been a follower of yours for many years. I'm a subscriber to your email list, and of course I get a lot of emails, so I don't follow every single one of them, but I've been following you, and the work that you do is very impressive, and I personally would love to dive in and find out a little bit more about what you do. I know that you also do some worldwide seminars and workshops and things like that all over the world, so I'd love to just kind of find out a little bit more about about what this is all about, this breath work. Because I think breath is so important. It's everything, right? I mean, we can't live without our breath.
Exactly. It's the most important and almost the most overlooked thing that we do on a daily basis.
It really is. It's something so, we just don't even think about it.
And that's why most people are living asleep in an unconscious state, because the breathing practices you are the one thing, the breath is the one thing that you have conscious control over, and you also have unconscious control over. And if you leave it just for granted, your unconscious mind just takes control. So we've never been taught how to consciously control it. And when you start doing that, that's when you really wake up and you start having real control over your physiology, who you are, and your kind of purpose and place in the world.
Yes, it's so fascinating how something so simple, something we do unconsciously and so naturally, it really has so much power to help us to improve ourselves.
Indeed. That's exactly what I figured out. Yeah, that's what I discovered.
So in less than 2 minutes, could you tell us about how you went from being a pharmacist to being a holistic health and breathwork expert?
Yeah, certainly. So I'll do this from the perspective of law of attraction, because you mentioned law of attraction and hypnosis, and so I'm going to talk from that perspective, because there's many different ways I can explain exactly what happened. But I think law of attraction, hypnosis, and self-hypnosis are exactly like the tools that I used to get well. And here's why. So I was actually a community pharmacist, and I hated my life. And long story short, I ended up getting housebound with a chronic illness, stress-related illness that they said was incurable, and I was like housebound. So for that year, it was the biggest challenging thing that I ever faced. And actually, I thought I was trying to help humanity, right? I climbed my way up to the top of one of the biggest corporations in the world, and I came up with this whole novel concept of delivering health information to the masses, and it got shelved halfway through because it was too renegade, and I lost my connection with the spirit. That's the first thing that happened, and I really got a bit dark in my mindset. I just thought the world was doomed, and that that there's no hope for humanity. The corporations are super corrupt, and they don't want anyone to be healthy or happy. So all of that negativity, and as you know from law of attraction, what you think about most, that fear manifests into a disease eventually. If you hold on to negative emotions, that's what happens, and that's exactly what happened to me. And I got hit with a lightning bolt of this autoimmune condition called ulcerative colitis that left me housebound for like a year. And literally I was at the most desperate point. And they say God stands for gift of desperation. So quite often God finds you in the most desperate moments of your life. And for me, this was when literally I was told there's no hope for you. The medications don't work. So you can either have your colon removed, or you can be a guinea pig for a drug that hasn't even been tested before.
Wow.
And you just said it in such a cold way. I just was really desperate. I thought, this is it. I'm going to be like 30 years old with a nappy most of my life, and this is just terrible. So, but then
it's so sad. That makes me almost like want to cry.
It is horrible. But I just went really deep at this point. I had a choice. I could have either like carried on with the self-pity, but I knew I wanted to help humanity. I knew deep down I wanted to do that. And luckily somebody came to my rescue, a very dear friend of our family, Swami Ambikananda, religious, she's a yoga teacher in the UK. I don't like to say religious because she's not really religious. She's a renegade when it comes to spirituality, but she's an amazing woman. And she cut through all the dogma and said to me, look, if you want to get well, then just take this advice on. It comes from Ayurveda, pranayama, yoga, and do these practices and change your perception of the situation you're in. Make peace with your present situation. And that one little catalyst shift was really like even more accelerated when she said to me that imagine the role model you could be if you could go through this and cure yourself, like the story that you would have from your perspective, who you are, your background. You could blend science with spirituality and really help a lot of people. And that gave me so much hope. And just even knowing that there's another way out and that I can heal myself. And the doctors were so cold. They said, you can't. That just gave me so much hope. And that hope changed everything for me. And
yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
love
So,
hearing that, because it sounds like
uh,
you just, you got that vision of yourself, and you almost saw yourself as bigger than this problem. It's like, boy, if I can heal myself, then I can heal the world. And that,
yeah.
I think that's where we need to go when we get stuck with these problems, whether they be health or financial or relationship or whatever, those big problems that seem bigger than us. They seem bigger than us because no one else has really figured it out the way that you need to. And so
Yeah.
you need to figure it out, because that's your contribution.
Indeed. You learn a lot about going into a traumatic situation. They say this is the path of the shaman. A lot of shamans, they go through intense, like either they isolate themselves for many years, or they have gone through some intense like experience that has made them learn so much about themselves. And through that learning, you wake up to who you truly are, your real purpose. And I believe that everyone has this ability to wake up to their true will, to who they really are.
I
But
do too.
you just need the tools. We were never given a manual of how to manage the mind, the body, physiology when we were born. And so my job is to really give people an accessible method, because I was actually extremely messed up person. I had a lot of traumas from childhood. I was super broke. I hated my job. I was angry with the world, and I didn't know how to manage my mind. And the first thing I did was to start figuring out how to do that. And
Yeah.
that's
So what technique did you use
yeah.
to tap into that?
So that took me into the world of pranayama. Pranayama basically means energy control, and the understanding of it's a branch of yoga, is that and they understood quantum science, thousands of years ago, and that is that everything is energy, and that we can manipulate the energy within to change reality on the outside world, and that yoga is all about creating inner alignment with the outer world. It's the ultimate method of manifesting that exists, in my opinion. So so the idea was that through breathing practices, because breath is the one thing that impacts your physiology instantly. Okay, it's the moment you breathe, you start changing your physiology, and by changing the rate of your breath, you can actually turn down the nervous system, or you can turn it up. You can influence your immune system using affirmations as well as breathing techniques. So I went deep into that, and also read a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which was a very well written book by Joseph Murphy, who was he's like the father of like personal development and things like this. And I actually combine a bunch of things with pranayama and music. And music was my biggest passion. Like I always actually wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a musician, and somehow I ended up at pharmacist. It's a very long story. I won't go into that, but music was my big thing. And I went back into creativity. I shied away from it for a while because I lost. I got too involved with the commercial music industry, and it's a very hedonistic, cold environment. And I knew that wasn't for me. So I kind of stopped doing music for a while and got into all this pharmacy stuff. But then big part of that cure was going back into creativity and exercising both sides of my brain. And I combined music with rhythm. So rhythmic breathing practices. So pranayama is all about using rhythms of inhales and exhales. So breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8, and extending your exhalation will change your physiology and switch on your parasympathetic nervous system instantly. So I started creating this technology which I called tripneural at the time, which is now powers a lot of therapists and stuff. And I started to experiment with breathing techniques over brainwave music that gets you into these deep therapeutic states. And in that, you can actually start using the power of visualization. When you get into that deep parasympathetic, low alpha brainwave state, you can actually use visualization or self-hypnosis. Affirmation is merely another word for self-hypnosis. So using self-hypnotic language, positive commands to your subconscious mind, you can actually calm the emotions that you've been holding on to. You can calm them down. And the one mantra I just said over and over again, and I actually enhance this by also doing it in the sauna. So I do this practice in the sauna. The sauna actually brings more blood flow to the midbrain. And that actually activates the third eye pineal gland. And actually it's why saunas and sweat lodges and things like that are a deep part of spiritual practices in like places like Mexico and this kind of old kind of Aztec Mayan cultures. And even the saunas in Finland, they're like churches. Russians use them a lot. They're like going to church, because it's where you go and pray, you go and meditate, you go deep into your subconscious mind. So I discovered this without even knowing anything about sweat lodge or anything. I just loved going to the heat. I was drawn to the heat, and I would go in there and I'd meditate and I'd visualize, and I would use these affirmations, and that led me into just a new world of open possibility. I started to become open to receiving alternative information, and through that I discovered the power of colostrum, which is this amazing healing substance, an Ayurvedic substance that actually humans produce as well. It repairs the gut. And
what is it called again?
Colostrum.
Okay.
Every mother produces it. It's the first food that a baby consumes. However, if you're not received enough colostrum as a child, if you're not breastfed for long enough, it can lead to a lot of digestive problems. And according to Ayurveda, the gut is the source of a lot of your problems. It's a part of your mind.
Right.
So if your gut health goes down, then your rest of your health is starting to go down. And actually, when we stop listening to our whole brain, the gut and the heart, that's when disease occurs in the body, because these are your subconscious minds. So your gut, your sex, your heart, not just the brain and your head. These organs, they call them chakras in the Vedic system, are these endocrine glands that produce hormones, are your brain, your whole brain. And the brain in your head is just what serves one function, and that's all. There's so many other different conscious sources of like receiving and giving information in the body. There's a whole intelligence that we can tap into if we know how. And this is what the yogis mastered, the tantric yogis. They mastered all this technology of just using affirmation, mantras, breathing practices, yoga, asana, getting into these states where you can start to influence your physiology, and by changing your inner world, you change your outer world.
Absolutely.
And by doing
that is so fascinating.
I just went on a crazy journey. I started to do experiments. So you'll like this one, because basically there was a documentary that came on TV about this guy called Uri Geller, the world's most psychic man. Like he kind of he was like shooed off as a bit of a charlatan for many years, but his documentary came out and said like he has been proven by Stanford Research Institute, and he had all these celebrities. He had like President of Israel going on there saying he's genuine. He had all these scientists saying he's. So I watched this. I was like, right, I want to find out if he's for real, and I'm going to see if I can manifest him. And I thought, okay, so if I can heal myself using these techniques, what if I use this for law of attraction and attracting people?
Ooh.
So I started to do that. Boom, before I know it, like I'm at Uri Geller's house. He's like, wants to be and he basically said to me this one thing. There's only one thing worse than bad publicity, and that's no publicity. He says, whatever you got to do anything you can to get big amounts of publicity.
Absolutely.
So instead of going out there frantically trying to figure out, I went back and meditated. And by sheer chance or synchronicity or whatever you want to call it, I ended up creating the world's most viral infographic that went crazy viral all around the world. It was about Coca-Cola. It was extremely controversial, so it received a lot of bad press as well as good press. But it blew me. It got me a lot of recognition and awareness, and it made my website a lot more popular, obviously. And that put me on this crazy journey. I started going around meeting amazing people like Wim Hof. I met through that infographic. I met many people, like amazing, people doing amazing stuff in the world, who like Marisa Peer and all that, through doing this journey, going on this journey, being opening my heart, and being more in control of my reality by working on the inner world, by making myself feel good, really good every single day. And people literally need to just learn this one simple mantra, and that is, if you want to get anything in your life, if you want to become good at something, you have to do it every day. So if you want to feel really good every day, you got to practice feeling good every day. If you want to be depressed, then practice being depressed every day, and that changes your brain. And actually, when you realize that, that's when you start waking up. That actually, all I need to do is do that one thing over and over again that I really want to do, that I love to do, and soon you become a master of it. Once you're a master of it, you start attracting people. This is the law of attraction. This is really what it is. It's not about just visualizing, it's about taking action and getting good at that one thing.
If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you, and that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today. Absolutely. No, I strongly recommend. As a matter of fact, consistency is one of the things that I preach about when it comes to law of attraction, and getting your energy into alignment, and becoming better, rising within to meet the world that you are wanting to manifest. You have to create that world within yourself. It's not something that comes to you. It only is attracted to you because you're in alignment with it and your frequencies are at that level.
Yeah.
So, tell us what are some of the techniques or the breathing techniques that you use that maybe worked better than others? Are there any that you want to share with us? I'd be particularly interested in knowing the one that you used to manifest the the meeting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't guarantee it's going to work for everyone. Okay, right. I think it's really down to individual what works and what the magic that I've managed to have may be due to completely different reasons. So I don't want to say it's all just down to that, but there's definitely something in it. Like there's beyond my own explanation, and it definitely is very good for healing, self-healing, for sure. Okay. Now here's why, because when you breathe in a rhythm where you breathe out for twice the length as you breathe in, so say you make a count, breathing in for 2, and then you breathe out for 4, and keep that rhythm going, in, 2, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. When you keep repeating that rhythm over it, like just even a minute, you switch on automatically your parasympathetic nervous system. So most people are on this high alert state, the sympathetic nervous system state, which because your neurology is designed to do this. So your neurology is actually working perfectly fine most of the time, and it's designed to make you survive, okay, at all costs. But we live in a world where we can perceive a threat not just from a physical source of danger, but also emotionally. So if somebody said something that was aggressive, it can trigger us and make us be stressed. If we have a deadline that's coming, it will make us be stressed. And you could also be bullied, you could be getting abused. There's many different reasons. There could be financial stress, but ultimately we live in a world where we are just wallowing in stress hormones because we've created a society that thrives off stress. It's like, I don't know if thriving is the right word, but it's a very stressed up society. And coffee is the staple drink, and coffee works by creating stress in the body. Okay, for some people it's really debilitating and it makes them sick. Other people, they thrive off it. It gives them energy and drive. And, you know, different people are different. But ultimately, if you're always stressed out, like chronic, this is called chronic stress, it creates tension in your body. And you also over breathe. You breathe as though you're preparing for battle, like you're going to fight. So you start to breathe more
and we breathe more shallow.
Yeah. And you breathe more shallow, you breathe through the chest, you kind of hyperventilate and you get tension. Hyperventilation, too much oxygen in the bloodstream, actually makes your blood vessels narrow and your muscles tighten, causes contraction, and is fear, paralysis. Same thing. If you see, you know, certain animals in the wild when they, when like something's going to attack it, you see cats doing this with birds. They play with them, and the bird's just frozen. They can't move. Well, a lot of human beings are rigid and frozen and stiff due to chronic stress, and that can actually switch almost instantly just with 1 minute of this 2-4 rhythm breathing. Okay, it's amazing how quickly it changes. And you can even use commands like I am calm, or I am whole, perfect, strong, loving, harmonious, and happy, and just repeat mantras that like make you feel good and feel safe, because your brain is designed to sense what's safe and what's unsafe. And what's safe and unsafe is very individual based on your programming that happens in the first few years of your life, first 7 years of your life. So, you know, it's nobody's fault that they are on high alert and stress all the time. You know, we are programmed since birth to be in a state of fear through the TV, advertising, and the corporations. They make you buy stuff using fear and using emotional triggers to make you buy stuff that you don't really need. That's how the economy works. The economy thrives off making you insecure and fearful.
Oh, absolutely. So, if you've ever ever studied how to create a proper sales letter, you know, inject the fear. And then if you are tense all the time, then what happens is really all this is very common sense. You diminish the blood flow around your body to the organs. So if you diminish blood flow to the organs, then nutrients aren't going there, and over time it leads to chronic disease. Okay, so some people are very uptight and they tend to get diseases in those areas. So, you know, up in the colon and the gut and digestive. Some people are very fiery, so they might get heartburn and ulcers, and some people are like prone to depression and they might get mental health issues from that, and the brain doesn't get enough supply of oxygen. There's many reasons for it. So the whole idea of pranayama and yoga and all these things was to give you a set of tools so that you can change your physiology and not be stressed and just be open. And when you become open, even in a stressful world, you become very attractive. If you're a relaxed, open person who's fun and good and fun to be around and open and doesn't just judge and criticize everything, people want to hang out with you. This is the real law of attraction. Right, you become more magnetic.
You become magnetic, and people come into your space and they want to help you with whatever you want to do. Because people who are successful like to be around enthusiastic people. So this is why I think that you can kind of bend reality by just working on the inner world. And that 2-4 breathing practice, I have to say, is magic, especially when you combine it with music, which gets you into even more of these deep, emotional, positive states. But then there's deeper practices you can do. So, as I was saying, the first 7 years is where all of the patterns are programmed. Okay, so through, if you understand hypnosis, you know that those 7 years pretty much shapes people's destinies to a certain degree. And this was understood also by the yogis, because do you know what enlightenment really means? What it really means?
Tell us, please tell us.
So enlightenment, and which is a word that's been thrown around a lot, where people don't really understand what it means. Even spiritual people don't really know what being spiritual means. Spiritual actually comes from the Latin root meaning to breathe. Espiritu means breath. And so spiritual being is someone who breathes, because they breathe in the spirit. And when they breathe in, they're inspired. When they breathe out, they expire. So being inspired is also when you breathe in this this light, this inspirational air.
Oh, I love that. Let me repeat that. Okay, so being spiritual means to breathe. So spirit means to breathe.
Everyone is spiritual.
Okay.
Everyone is by default a
so we're all spiritual beings because we're all breathing. So when you so enlightenment is meaning to be aware of your breathing?
No, so that's the beginning. So enlightenment is understanding that we are all robots. Okay, this is like the Buddhist version of enlightenment. We're all robots because we're conditioned. The moment we're born, we are programmed. So all those behaviors, programs, all of that stuff creates a version of you that isn't your true will. It's not your truth, but it creates a version of you that society has actually formed. Your parents, the TV, the corporations, all this stuff. And the idea of Buddhism and Zen and all this is to meditate on that and become aware of this, to then surrender to it. So you can either then be at peace with who you are, right? Or you go and hide in a cave and hide away from the world because you don't want to engage with what society has programmed you to be. So that's the Buddha. It's very extreme. Now the Christian version is that you have absolute free will. So they don't believe in free will, the Buddhists. The Christians believe in free will. That the moment you're born, everything is your fault. And that if you don't believe in the word of God, then you go to hell, all right? And if you do what the church says, you go to heaven. That's the Christian. And it's not actually a very forgiving religion. Like actually it's quite a vengeful one, and
which is ironic because
so funny,
apparently Jesus was supposed to be forgiving.
And the Buddhist one is all very much about forgiveness because we're all robots. We're all robots. Now the middle path, which I like to prefer to go down, is which is a more renegade one, is that the idea that yes, we are robots, so we should forgive people for doing things that they do and not judge people and accept people, because this is the road to tolerance and acceptance and being open. Is that most people are asleep. They're in a sleeping trance and they're just playing out life because of these conditionings, and they have no idea that that's exactly how they've been created in the first place. But some people wake up out of it, some shock, some crazy thing happens, right? And like what happened to me, and you get into this altered state of perception. Some people take mega doses of psychedelics to get into that state. Some people meditate for hours a day to get into that state. And you wake up and you realize, yes, there are all these programs. Yes, but I should not forget that I'm a robot, but I have the ability to reprogram. And then when you become conscious, like really conscious, you can consciously reprogram, which is just what hypnotherapy is about. The 7 years of imprinting and reprogram and replace them with new programs. And when you start seeing yourself actually more like a super efficient biocomputer with an operating system, which is your mind, and that operating system can be programmed. Like, so when you buy a computer, it's like got all these programs on it. Most of them you don't need. So if you're really good, like with computers, you get rid of all of that, and you streamline, you optimize it, and then your computer runs really fast, and you can install new programs, and then you can make that program how you want it to, that computer to do what you want it to be. You can become an expert, a master of the thing that is aligned with your true will. And by discovering your true will, this is what breathing practices, meditation, all these things can help you do. And this is what I've gone into with SOMA, is that through certain breathing practices, you can get into a state which I call the neurosomatic bliss state. This is a state where you get into, it's like what psychedelics do. They get you into this ultimate state of oneness, connection, and altered perception. So at that state is when your truth suddenly appears to you and you realize who you really are. And quite often the true will is somebody who wants to fit into society. They want belonging, they want community, they want the things that humans should really want, not what corporations want humans to want. And they start to de-robotize. And through these breathing practices, you can get into these states, you can become more aware of who you are, your programming, you can reprogram it during those same practices, and you de-robotize. So you go from being robotic to a de-robotized human living life more on their own conscious terms, living on purpose. This is really what like SOMA is designed to do. This is what I've now helped people to do, is to take them from learning and being aware of that robotic like nature that they've got, and to break free of that, liberate from that, so you can now live life more on your terms. And we can then make a better world to live in, where people are more conscious, more tolerant, and not kind of bogged down by dogma. It's unbelievable that people still have religious wars. We live in a world where we have the internet, where we have access to so much information, yet people still argue over the man in the sky. It's madness. It's, like
it's crazy. It really
is. It's because they've been programmed to believe. Like, religion is very good at creating like robots who follow the same dogmatic rules over and over again.
Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code PODCAST in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. Yeah, and creating that fear and those some of that those unnecessary programs that you talked about. So the SOMA breathing that you talk about, that is short for the neurosomatic nervous. Say that again.
SOMA comes from a legend. Okay. I call it neurosomatic bliss.
Okay.
It's the ultimate peak state, the peak human state of ultimate bliss and connection. And I've got a very powerful way of getting there, okay, which is one of the most revered techniques in pranayama. It's called kumbhaka. So kumbhaka is the method. It's using breath retention, using rhythmic breathing at fast rates, followed by breath retention. Okay. This also has another side effect that's very positive, is that when you hold your breath for a certain period of time, all right, you create this state called hypoxia, intermittent hypoxia. And this is what I was also doing in my healing practice. So every time you do rhythmic breathing, you should always follow it up with holding your breath to a point where you can't hold it any longer. And it creates this state, and it creates a short burst of hypoxia, which is lower than normal oxygen levels in your bloodstream. When you have lower than normal oxygen levels in your bloodstream, what happens is your body thinks that it's running out of oxygen, so it adapts to that state. And you start to produce more red blood cells. You actually dilate blood vessels, and you get more blood flow to your brain and your heart. And then with deeper practice, if you can hold your breath for long enough and hit the right level of oxygen, you can actually wake up and activate stem cells in your bloodstream. You have these very important, very small embryonic stem cells, which are stem cells that are omnipotent. They can turn into any other cell in the body, and they get activated. They get activated under certain conditions, like extreme temperature, so like sauna also does it. Exercise can activate, like extreme like high intensity exercise, and also breath retention, low oxygen. So when you do that, then you can actually use the natural intelligence of your consciousness, innate consciousness, to direct stem cells to where they want to go. They actually already have an intelligence of their own. They go to areas in your body where there's inflammation, where growth needs to occur, healing needs to occur. But with certain postures, you can actually bring blood flow to where you want it. So just by squeezing that organ and releasing, you can actually send blood flow to that area of the body. Mm-hmm. So in this techniques, we use these energy locks that draw up energy and blood flow and send it to areas of the body. So we like to send energy up to the brain, the midbrain, where the pineal and the pituitary is, because they're the master hormones. They're the glands that actually control all the other glands in the body. Mm-hmm. It's also the brain is, if you want to grow new brain cells, when you change your brain, you change the conditioning. We have a part of the brain which deals with all of our habits and habitual thinking. And so if you want to unrobotize, you literally have to change the brain. And actually, enlightenment really means brain change. It's the understanding that we can change the brain, the hard disk. So if you want to go from a PC to a Mac, this is what you do. And you basically, once you get...
Assuming the Mac is superior.
The Mac is far superior in my opinion to the PC. But
I've evolved to a Mac, I must say. Yes. So I'm feeling fairly enlightened.
So basically, just through that, you can use energy locks, and you'll see the whole system of yoga is designed to use breath retention. The way people do yoga at the moment is too aerobic, like it's all like moving from one flow to the next. It's not how it should be. Actually, yoga, you're meant to sit still, you're meant to hold each pose to a point of exhaustion, extreme, so it ticks the box of extreme intense energy to the point of exhaustion. Exercise to the point of exhaustion, plus holding your breath, you lower the oxygen, plus being able to direct blood flow up into the brain. And then, so we use energy locks and certain postures, and using intention, we can move blood flow up to the brain, and this has an amazing effect at improving your cognitive function.
Oh, I can imagine.
I've noticed since I've been doing this stuff, like my productivity, my ability to be creative, like I've made so many different genres of music, and I've done music for so many different people. My creativity has gone through the roof. I mean, my life is just unbelievable now. I run raves in tropical countries. I run high-end retreats. I have a very successful online business. I have pretty much everything I want now. I attract amazing people into my life. The one thing I want next is to be able to share this with the world in the best way possible. That's what I'm working on right now, is to really make this super accessible, because I think everyone needs this. It's like, at the moment, what happened was we have the corporations owning education. They own your choice of healthcare. They own the treatments you use. They own education is the most important thing, right, to heal the society. Education and information that's easily accessible. And these are two areas which I'm really focusing on, is early childhood education, getting the information to the people, the kids, and the parents, so that they can bring the families up with the right tools to survive and thrive in this world. Because at the moment, we're starting to go backwards as a society. We were progressing, but we are now going backwards, and we have to change. We have to change the brain and the consciousness of our society, our culture, and change the cultural hypnosis that has been programming everyone to consume, overconsume. And there's this overconsumption, this madness of perpetual growth that this whole economy is based on, that's leading to destruction of this planet. So unless we change the brain, right, literally the brain of children, evolve it with the right empathy, with the right understanding, really being consciously aware of what's going on in the world, there's no hope for humanity. So we must do this. We have to do it.
Absolutely. You are just a world of amazing information, and I have really enjoyed being enlightened by you and learning this information. I'm going to actually play this back myself and listen to this podcast myself, and I'm sure that my guests got a lot of new information that they haven't heard before. I think you are cutting edge. This is really cutting edge information, and I totally agree with you. It makes so much sense that, ultimately, we use our breath to, rewire ourselves, rewire the brain, get these, to program in new habits to make us more productive, and, get rid of that, robotic old habits that are really not useful to us. So I really appreciate what you're doing. I think more and more people need to get on board with this way of thinking and learn more about this. So how can people start to move toward this movement that you are working toward? How can people get on board with that?
So we have created like an online school, and I really believe that by becoming an instructor or a teacher is one of the best ways to learn and to keep a continual practice. And so we've created an amazing instructor training program at SOMA Breath, which trains you in our techniques. You'll learn like how to wake up your inner pharmacy, how to influence your physiology using different breathing patterns and rhythms. You have access to our music technology. And you also learn a lot about awareness, about the mind, how it really works, about changing your programming and becoming aware and reprogramming, repatterning these conscious imprints, subconscious imprints that happen in this early childhood. We have a lot of this training. It's very powerful. But we also have a flagship program, the 21-day protocol, which is just transforming people. It's like 21 days. As I said, to become really good at something, you have to keep consistency. You have to do it every day. So in 21 days, I know that you can form a lifelong habit. So we do this 21-day program. It takes you through step by step to the point of neurosomatic bliss that happens on the last week, also called Kevala Kumbhaka in yoga. And it's the state of absolute oneness and connection you can get through just through breathing. It's unbelievable. Breathing and music, and it's guided by instructors, and it takes you on an amazing journey. And it's really, I think, the most powerful manifesting program, machine, whatever you want to call it, that exists. I'm yet to see anything, because I was obsessed with this stuff, all the attraction, all that. I knew there's something to it. So I wanted to make it the best, the most powerful, the one that actually works. And it led me closer and closer to this ancient stuff that the yogis did, because they were the system of religion, actually, spirituality. Ultimately, all these ancient religions, the unorthodox ones, the occult ones, all of them were about, really, if you look at a core, was about how to manifest a life based on your true will, about who your true purpose, not the one that society tells you should have. And that's really what I delivered in a scientific way, in a way that you can actually understand.
That's great.
It's not like in that old language, which is full of like mystery, and this is actually real stuff, actionable stuff.
That's great. And you're also offering a free gift for our audience today. So our listeners of Power of Your Mind podcast can visit somabreath.com/awaken to get your free webinar to learn more about breath work, as well as...
You get like a download you can use every day. You can test out this as part of your routine. We have a 22-minute track which you can do every single day that will give you a lot of health benefits.
That's great. That's awesome.
That's all for free.
Yeah, and so there's 5 breathing techniques to activate your inner pharmacy included in that. So definitely want to check that out at somabreath.com/awaken. And you can also go to other websites, the Renegade Pharmacist website, which is, the renegadepharmacist.com. Yeah. And you also have a Facebook page. What is it? Truth Prescribed.
Yeah.
And
then SOMA Breath. There's a group on Facebook called SOMA Breath. And in there, we've got this amazing community of people that you can join and interact with. I really believe community is the cure of the world's problem. Bringing people together and giving a sense of belonging and connection is really what my highest, power. Like, that's why I'm really good. I'm gifted at like bringing people together. So that's one of the things I really want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's just been an absolute pleasure having you on the Power of Your Mind podcast today. And you've just really opened up a whole new world of information, because, again, just this simple thing that we do naturally every day can really be such a portal to everything that you want. Ultimately, it does have to start there, because it's something that we do, and it's something that could be harmful if you're not doing it the right way. And it can be so beneficial if you take time to really understand these powerful techniques that you teach. And so thank you so much for bringing awareness to this and doing your research and being the person that you chose to manifest into. And I'm really appreciative of your time today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Much love.
Thank you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.